Do flag me, guys, if you can't see it properly. Just a second. There you go. Okay, so starting with what is Shopee? I think all of you guys have probably heard about Shopee. You guys have probably are also using it. Some of you guys are already sellers. I'm sure most of you guys are already our buyers. So Shopee is currently the leading online shopping platform in Southeast Asia and Taiwan. We have around 30 million, actually more than 30 million mobile application downloads in Philippines alone. And if you look at that scale of a population, that's almost every third person has downloaded Shopee on his or her phone. We have around 500,000 active sellers on our platform. We always talk about how Philippines economy is tied to our sari stores, our traditional stores. There are around 1.2 million sari stores in Philippines. So if you compare that number, that we have 500,000 active sellers on our app every day, that just shows you the scale of it. And Shopee has around 95% of its order coming from mobile, which is evident of the fact that how Filipino economy, how the population is very mobile first, and it's very mobile friendly. And if you think of the key advantages that Shopee has and has been working on offering to both our sellers as well as our buyers, the first one and the most critical one, I feel at times, it's mobile first. There was a deliberate decision taken by leadership to go mobile first, bypassing the entire web. And that's very evident if you look at not just Philippines, but Southeast Asia, where people are shifting or are jumping the desktop generation straight to the mobile generation. Secondly, social interaction is very key to Shopee. And you can see it, right? If you look at our app, if you don't have yet, please download, and you can see it, that in our app, there's a chat function, which is focused on very fluid messaging between buyers and sellers. So we want to bridge that online-offline gap. So even though you're online, you're still communicating to the seller as if you're almost with the seller. And also other entertainment stuff. So we launched our Shopee Live, where sellers can do a live stream and talk about their products. And of course, there's Shopee Feed, where a seller can post about their products, share images, share details, and can get comments and likes for it. Thirdly, buyer and seller experience. I was talking about this yesterday as well. Buyer and seller experience is core to Shopee's principles. It's very important for us to make the entire experience very easy to use, engaging, and fun at the same time. And as we built our product, as we built our campaigns and features, we care a lot about localization of content. We want to make it custom made, curated for every single Filipino, and that flows through the blood of our organization. We want to make sure that it's the best experience Filipinos can get. And finally, right, very important, the integrated logistics and payments, which is core to our e-commerce operations. So we make sure that buyers and sellers both are feeling very comfortable with using Shopee. And hence we have Shopee Pay Guarantee, which allows people to be much more comfortable and risk-free with their transaction. And then we have 3PLs, which are integrated with the platform, that make sure that every single Filipino can access great products at very fast pace. By the way, let me point out one thing. For our tech-savvy guys, you can see a QR code on each slide. If you want, you can scan it. This will basically take you to a Google form. You can share your details, and our team will actually get back to you and actually help you with the entire process of onboarding you, getting you on Shopee, or any other questions you may have. It will be on every single screen, so feel free to scan it whenever you want. Okay. As I was saying about the operations piece, let me emphasize it even more, right? So if you look at the payment, we understand the importance and concerns of our customers, especially when they're transacting online. In the early generations of e-commerce, there was always lack of trust, lack of confidence, and that's something Shopee has been very successful at solving. So for example, for our buyers who prefer cashless transactions, we have our own Shopee Pay, which is our Shopee's official in-app e-wallet. We also have MasterCard, we also have Visa for our preferred and Shopee Mall shops. Simultaneously, we've also partnered with many banks where if you prefer to do online transactions or online banking, feel free to do so. And of course, right, in Philippines, remittance and payment centers are very dominant. So if you feel that's the best way, or if your customers feel that's the best way to do transaction, that's also an option. But for majority of the population who prefer to still, let's say, do transaction by cash only or COD, cash only is available across nationwide, and it's still the preferred mode of payment choice for those making purchases online.
Hi, Aki. Aki?
Yes.
Hi, we are receiving feedback from the audience that your slides are small. Is it possible if you can enlarge them? I think they're viewing of there. Okay, that's better.
Is it better now?
That's better now. Thank you, Aki.
Sure. Apologies for that. And by the way, guys, if you feel if you missed anything or you were not able to again see anything before because of this tech issue, please raise it into questions. If it's not answered, please scan this QR code and send it as a Google form. My team will make sure that we get back to you. Apologies for that. Talking about the second pillar of operations, right? Logistics. It's very important as e-commerce that we are available everywhere, whether it's North Luzon, whether it's Mindanao, whether it's Davao, whether it's Visayas, whether it's Cebu, every single nook and cranny of the country, we need to be available and provide excellent service. And hence we have partnered with multiple third-party logistics companies. And of course, we also have our own Shopee Express. And this makes sure that we provide efficient and fast and seamless experience to our customers, and also to our sellers to make sure that your orders are getting picked up on time and you're getting a good experience while you're transacting on Shopee. One question which I always, I often hear, especially recently, on how are we making sure that we are safe, our 3PLs are safe, the packages we are getting are safe during scenarios like this, particularly in the last few weeks. And I want to re-emphasize this, and I've emphasized this in a few other conversations, that Shopee is maintaining regular communications and with sellers and buyers throughout COVID-19 crisis to make sure that they're well, they're updated with the latest COVID news as well. I mean, we take extensive measures when it comes to safety of our customers and sellers, as well as delivery riders. It's very important that our riders, our sellers, and our buyers are healthy, are safe, and it's probably our most important factor right now in every decision we take. And we take extreme precautions to make sure that our staff is also safe and they're abiding by the social distancing measures implemented by the government. So if you look at what we do, like each Shopee employee must follow the measures that are in place very strictly. They must wear face masks and sanitize their hands before handling any parcel. Body temperatures of all our warehouse employees and Shopee Express employees are being taken every day. And we're making sure that all our warehouses are also sanitized regularly. There's also the contactless delivery where you can use the Shopee Pay or our credit cards or online banking transfer systems to pay without actually making any contact. So again, right, very important that all of you guys, all of our guys are safe, and we go through this this crisis in a very safe and sound manner. And as we are doing this, right, as we are making safety a priority, it's very important also to make sure that people have access to stuff they need. People have access to resources they need. And a big demand these days is essentials. It's food, it's groceries, it's milk products, it's common day-to-day items. And hence we are working very closely with our brands when it comes to and sellers to ensure that we manage the supply of these essential goods very well and make sure that every Filipino has access to these essential goods with a click of their phone. And hence we launched the 5/5 Shopee Mart sale from April 22nd to May 5. And the focus there is that users can get deals as low as 5 peso with a 0 min spend shipping focused on essential goods. Simultaneously, we've also partnered with several organizations, including Philippine Red Cross, and We Are the Children, as well as Philippines General Hospital. And the idea was there to help our frontliners, especially in this dire situation. And hence we went ahead and we donated around 3,000 COVID test kits, as well as around 150,000 masks to various hospitals in Luzon, to make sure that they make sure the frontliners are well equipped and helping us fight this battle very well. Of course, and we also launched our Shopee Bayanihan campaign, where the focus was again getting resources for our frontliners, and we managed to donate around 2,800 KFN for respiratory masks to our frontliners. Again, Shopee is committed to helping our frontliners even in future, and as the situation changes or evolves, we'll make sure that we are always with the ones who are keeping us safe in this crisis. Now, I think probably the most important part of it, and I think what probably matters the most for us in the next few days, is how do you sell on Shopee? I hope most of you guys have some sort of a shop on Shopee, but for those who don't, maybe we can use this as an opportunity to identify, or for me to guide you on how to sell on Shopee. Again, remember, right, there's a QR code, so scan it. If you don't have any, if you have any questions afterwards, we'll reach out to you as well. So the basic requirement to sell on Shopee is very simple. All you need is a mobile phone or a computer or laptop, by which you can access web or the app. You, of course, need an internet connection. Your mobile data plan can also work. You need bank account details so that you can receive the money as you are generating sales. And of course, you need the pickup address. So when you're making a transaction, when you're making a sale, our 3PLs can come up, pick up your items, and bring it to the seller, bring it to the buyers. And that's it. You can start registering your business. And of course, when it comes to documents, you need the BIR and certificate of registration. You need the DTI and SEC permits. And of course, you need the collection, receipt, and sales invoice. So if you have all of these, and you have them handy right now, let me promise you, by the end of this conversation, by the end of my presentation, it's so easy, you'd already be able to set up your shops. So what you need to do, you need to go to your Play Store or your App Store, depending on which app, which phone you have, and you should search for Shopee. Again, it's the leading e-commerce platform in the country, so it should be very easy for you to find it. Just search Shopee, and it should pop up right at top. Once you download Shopee, you should start creating an account. And as you create the account, if you can see my screen, and feel free to take a screenshot if you want to save it for later, or of course, you can always reach out to us. You go and register yourself as a seller account. Once you have registered yourself as a seller account, you click on your My Shop, and you will see this this drop down where you can choose to add your new product. And just by doing this, you can start creating your inventory or your item list. To select the new product or to upload a new product, literally take a photo and take a good photo of it. We have often seen that photos and descriptions are very correlated to amount of sales you can do. A good photo can actually help you significantly in generating more sales and more revenue. So in Shopee, you can take up to 9 photos per listing. Take high quality photos in different variations and put the naming so it's very accurate and it's complete. It's very honest to the buyers, and give a good description. Make sure it's very descriptive. Make sure people, when they're buying it, they understand what they're buying. And if even after that, if they have questions, of course, as I mentioned, there's a chat feature, so they can always reach out to you. And I think that's it. With that, and as you set up the prices, you are ready to sell on Shopee. It's as easy as that. And that's the core principle behind e-commerce and Shopee, that for you MSMEs who have set up your businesses, who have flourished, who have battled through these tough times, we give you an opportunity to expand your business, to touch new horizons, using existing inventory, existing products, existing business skills you have, to reach out markets, let's say you have never, you were not able to explore before, and we'll be partner with you in this journey. And as I mentioned, right, we'll be partner with you on this journey. We have taken a few measures to make sure we focus on this even more. And the way Seller Shopee is working, we call it the 3 M's. And it's focused on the market, so which means seller onboarding support, the marketing, which is education and marketing support, and the money or the commercial support. And we're working on each one of them to make sure that as you onboard to Shopee, as you join Shopee, or as even if you're already on Shopee, you get through these turbulent times in a comfortable manner. So on market side, right, we help our sellers onboard on Shopee. So when, as I mentioned, right, there's a QR code. If you want to come to Shopee, if you want having questions, there's a team which can help you get on Shopee very smoothly. There's the marketing part or the education part. I'll walk through this later, but there's a we're putting extra emphasis on online education. We are doing webinars on how you can win through this crisis, how you can increase your sale, what's the new normal looking like, how you can leverage e-commerce more during these crises, and so on. And of course, there's money. So we are providing commercial support. There's a Shopee seller support program where we are providing 200 million peso worth of commercial support to our amazing sellers. And I'll walk through this in a bit more detail. So if you look at the market, right, as I mentioned, again, there's the QR code. Please scan it and get to us. We'll help you with the setup support. We'll help you how to upload, what to do, what the prices you should set, which products you should deal in. I often have sellers. A good example is I often talk to sellers from Marikina who are amazing manufacturers and sellers of shoes. And they sell very high quality shoes. And they always ask me how we can compete with e-commerce, how we can compete with different markets, what are the prices we should set, what are the different varieties we should make. And our team, since they work with so many sellers, since they work with the entire industry, since they work with, and they have a good understanding of shoe market, they often help these sellers. They often guide these sellers that, hey, you should bring this item, you should put it at this price point, this is how you should promote. And I'm almost emotional, but we have seen sellers who have grown exponentially over the last few months, working very closely with our team. So it's very important that that you leverage us as well, and we'll be always there to help you guys. As I mentioned about the marketing and the education, right? So again, we are overemphasizing on webinars. We're overemphasizing on trainings. Some of the topics we are focusing on are specifically tied to the current scenario. So how do you recover your business after this quarantine? How do you lead your business through this crisis? How do you enhance your listings, as I mentioned, to uplift your sales? And of course, the operations elements. How do you make sure that your shop is recognized as a great operational shop among the buyers? So these webinars are public. Feel free to join them. Our team will be happy to walk you through and, of course, answer as many questions you may have. And of course, the important part, which is the money or the commercial support. So as I mentioned a few seconds ago, we have launched this 200 million peso Shopee support program, where the idea is to bring our sellers back and SMEs through this COVID crisis. Through this package, we aim to support both our local SMEs and sellers with an existing online presence, as well as those who are looking to expand their business online. And this includes provisions of reduced commission, transactions, voucher supports, CFS, and so on. But also, of course, the education part. And the goal here is to soften the economic decline faced by Filipino SMEs. As I mentioned, right, SMEs are core to our country. They're core to our company as well. I mean, you guys run Shopee. So it's important that you guys recover very quickly, and both on the professional front and actually very importantly also on the personal front. And Shopee will continue to take as many measures as possible and feasible to help you in this crisis. So if you want actually more details around this program, right, again, reach out to our team, scan the QR code. I'll also show the link later in the last slide. They'll be happy to share as many details as you want, and take advantage of it. We created it with the hope that this will help our SMEs, this will help our economy. We already have a good amount of sellers who are part of this program now and have utilized it and are sharing about it and are talking about it. We recently launched an initiative where we started selling health packages or health kits to some of our sellers. And it humbles me. It makes me emotional when they talk about it in social media, or when they talk about it among their friends, that how they're feeling now safer because Shopee sent them a face mask, or Shopee sent them hand sanitizers. So I think it's important that we work together during this crisis. And finally, right, like in long run, as you set up the shop, as you take all these advantages that we are offering to you, as you are well educated, you know like how to run the business, and as online, of course, you and you transfer some of your offline skills also to online. What can you optimize? So few tricks I can give you right away. So buyers on Shopee find discounts very attractive. They like freebies, they like bundling, they like gifts. So selling a t-shirt and bundling it with an umbrella often is found very attractive, for example. They love free delivery. And that's why we also have programs like free shipping special, where we do zero min spend or very low min spend to make sure that our buyers, even in distant provinces, are able to buy items without paying hefty shipping fee. They love low prices, of course. I think that's very obvious. But as I mentioned also, they also love very good product listings. So the quality of your listings, making your buyers trust your products and trust you as a seller, let me tell you, goes a long, long way. And some of the biggest sellers, I'm sure you can hear success stories. I can't take names. They're known in the market as trustworthy sellers because their listings, the quality of the products they have, their chat response is very top notch. So you can try all of this. And of course, there's tons more, which you can learn during our training sessions or talking to our team after this. So that's all I had for you guys. As I was mentioning, right, there's a QR code. It's a bigger size now. There's also the link. So if you cannot scan the QR code, just go to your browser and type https bit.ly seller sign up, and you'll be taken to a Google form. Fill up that form, share your contact detail. We'll keep it confidential, and our acquisition team will reach out to you and share with you the more confidential details or descriptions. If you feel rather a hurry and you want to go do it right now, I've shared the details of two of our colleagues, Carol and Jenica. They work with our acquisition team, as well as seller education team. So call them, send them an email, and they'll be happy to help you right away, or share more details online if you guys need. So with that, thank you so much. Thank you for having the patience to listen to me. I hope all of you are safe, both personally and professionally. Stay that way, and I hope we all will get through this crisis very soon. And when it's over, trust me, I think it's going to be beautiful. We all will be back. I can see there's a lot of opportunity out there for all of us after this crisis. I think that's it. I don't know if you have time for questions, guys.
I think we have time for one or two questions, actually.
Sure, happy to.
Here's one from Constancia Abay. Shopee, if I register as a seller, is it approved right away, and can I sell my product?
Sure. Yes. If you set up a shop on Shopee, you can start selling right away. But of course, we have our it's important that you don't sell fraudulent items. You don't sell unsafe items. And for that, we have our bogus items team, our fraud checking team, and we of course make sure that our buyers are also safe. But yes, from the seller's end, if you set up a shop right now, you will be you will be live and able to sell instantly.
Question from Rachel May Rosal. How do you consider the security of our private data, especially credit and debit cards? Because sometimes we hesitate to input our data for fear of hacking or phishing.
No, that's a very fair question, and I think that's very evident. That's very important, especially in the digital age. And I think Shopee is very Shopee cares a lot about this. It's our buyers' money, our sellers' money, our these transactions. They need to be top notch, and hence we have partnered with world-class payment channels. So, for example, when we even when we work with credit cards and debit cards, we work with some of the world's most renowned payment channels. Some of this is confidential, probably, so I cannot share. But we work with some of the world's best known payment channels. They are all SSL secured, and they follow the world's best practices when it comes to payment transactions. And similarly, when we were building our own wallet, when we have Shopee Pay, which you should feel comfortable to use, we made sure that this was also evident there. So it's completely safe. It follows the best-in-class standards when it comes to data transfer, data security, data privacy, and payment transaction safety norms.
Question from Jim of SM. Who manages the taxes for sellers on Shopee?
Sure. So taxes are responsibility of the sellers, and they should be working with the required authorities, and they should be filing those taxes for themselves. But Shopee is always there to help you and guide you. We can educate you. And we have webinars where we guide the sellers on what documents and so on. But end of the day, the onus is on the sellers to do the taxes.
Question from Michael Anthony F. Lopez. At yesterday's session, I remember Akshay mentioned that shelf life for food items or most products should have a 3-month shelf life. Would there be a change to a shorter shelf life to sell products?
Sure. I think that was Dre. That's one of my colleagues, but I think that's a fair question. I think it's a bit more technical. I would suggest send it an email, and we can check especially which product you're talking about. But again, right, for us, it's important to also take care of our buyers' safety. So some of these food items, it's important for us to make sure the shelf life is long enough, and hence when buyers are buying it, they can consume it in right time. But if you're talking about any specific item within the food product, please send us an email and we can go into more details.
And I think we have time for one final question. This is from Hannah Angana. There are some issues about drivers who open the boxes. Is it true, and how is that dealt with?
Sure. So we are, whether it's our Shopee Express or whether it's our partnering 3PLs, we are very stringent when it comes to safety and security of our packages. It's very paramount, and we make sure such incidents or such actions don't happen. But if they do happen, we have an entire process for it, and hence, right, sellers, our buyers have the refund and return options, and if also for the sellers front, right, like for any lost items or damages, we make sure that they are monetized for it. They don't lose money for it. So every single incident that has been raised to us historically, we have taken stringent action on it, whether it comes to our own third party, our own fleet, or our 3PLs. And we work very closely with our sellers on this. So we make sure that no matter what, sellers should never take the brunt. The moment you have shipped your order to the buyers, we make sure you are generating revenue because of it.
That's reassuring, Akshay. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
Sure. Thank you so much. Stay safe, guys. And thank you so much.
All right. For those of you who have questions, and apparently there's quite a lot, the back-end team of Shopee will try to answer as many questions as they can in the Zoom Q&A. So we'll get back to you with answers to your questions. For now, though, it's time to introduce our next speakers, CEO Golda Roldan and Executive Strategic Planning Director Pam Garcia of Wunderman Thompson.
Hello. Good afternoon. Everyone hear me? As I just shared.
We have you loud and clear, and we see your slides.
All right, great. Hello, I'm Golda Roldan, and I am joined here by my colleagues, Noel Permento, our e-commerce lead, Jason T, our digital strategist, and Pam Garcia, our head of strategic planning. And before we actually start sharing, I'd like to thank Asek Jean and Joel Santos of Attempts for this opportunity to be the creative partner for this effort from DTI. We are actually, so I've introduced my team, and we are Wunderman Thompson. We are about to share with you trends to watch in 2020, this is where we identify emerging consumer behaviors. And this is something that we've been doing for more than a decade. But before that, I just want to quickly introduce who we are and what we do. So brands everywhere, they face a growth challenge, and this challenge is can be manifested in different ways. It could be the growth of business in terms of sales or market share, could be the growth of a brand, or brand love, could be growth for brand love, or customer numbers, could be about people, could be about sustainability. And if you think about the times we live in now, amid this crisis we're going through, this challenge is really recurring and more relevant more than ever. We are a growth partner. That is really our role in order to help our clients grow. We bring together the capabilities of a creative agency, a consultancy, and a technology company within one organization that is Wunderman Thompson. And our mission is to inspire growth for ambitious brands. We provide inspiration to help brands achieve their growth objectives. Kung ano man ang objectives nila that they're going to define, that they're going to brief us on. This is just an example. These are samples of work that we've done with our partners. If you're familiar with the KitKat bench that you see in parks, in BGC, we are the agency behind that. We worked with our client Nestle KitKat. We also did a digital integrated campaign that we developed with our partner J&J together with DOH. It's an integrated campaign where we created a platform for BPO agents and to help uplift their physical, mental state, giving them more quick access to health management, info, and top of the line meds. Another work that we've done last December, if you're familiar with the Globe Star Wars video, that was also done by us together with our partner Globe. As a growth partner, we actually inspire growth in many different ways. These are just the different ways that we can help our clients, whether it's from building brands or creating experiences, to building platforms, to actually guiding decisions with data. So all of these are ways of how we can inspire growth for our clients and our partners. And we're proud. We're very proud when we look at our clients as we partner with them for growth and across different categories. These are just the different capabilities that we do, brand and customer experiences, from communication, CRM, commerce and consulting, from technology to data. And Collision is really just a way of thinking. That's like a workshop tool that we partner with our clients. And underpinning our culture of inspiration are our 4 core values. We have this sense of being in it together and being always part of a team. We have this positivity and this can-do attitude that supports our business. Actually, that picture over there would be our total agency. Creative bravery is it's really about taking more bold action in order to lead growth with our clients. And finally, the behavior of listening actively in order to understand consumers and our clients as we work together. Because our mission is inspiring growth, we always end our credentials when I introduce us with some form of inspiration. In this case, this is a quote by Howard Schultz from Starbucks when he said, "When you are surrounded by people who share a passionate commitment around a common purpose, anything is possible." So speaking of purpose, I will stop here now and I'll turn you over to our Pam, to our head of strategy, Pam, to start sharing with you our trends for 2020.
Okay, good afternoon, guys, and thank you for spending your time with us. So as Golda said, part of Wunderman Thompson's mission or purpose is to inspire businesses and brands to actually reimagine themselves in the new economy. So actually, in the next slide, we'd like to show you our theme for today. So I think, yes, okay. So in the next slide, actually, before this, okay, hold on. There, okay. Thank you, Golda. Golda's actually our slide master. Okay, so in the next slide, we'd like to show you the trend sources for today. So we actually prepared 5 trends for you today, but rest assured that usually Wunderman Thompson, we've actually been doing this for the past 11 years. We actually source global trends, which are consumer shifts in mindsets and attitudes, from an annual deck of 100 future trends from our global office. And this is actually locally validated with qualitative researches or focus groups, usually at the end of the previous year, which we conducted in December 2019. But for this year, it's also supplemented by a quantitative study of about 4,500 Gen Z consumers po. Sila po yung 13 to 23-year-old youngest consumers natin. And we've actually used those two sources to analyze 5 trends that we think businesses will be interested in to reimagine their core for this year. Okay, if we can move on to the next slide, this is just a snapshot of the 5 trends that you're going to see today. So we're going to talk about optimism, singles, taboos, future-proofing, and new digital communities. Okay, let's start off with the first trend. So the first trend is all about optimistic futures. And if you're seeing the screen now, what it actually tells us is it's re-exciting businesses and brands to be able to adopt an optimistic outlook for 2020 and beyond amidst uncertain times. So that's actually trend number 1, which is optimistic futures. And if you can go to the next slide, why we think this is interesting for brands and businesses is because the past years have left societies across the world quite anxious, like we are all now, because everything's unsettled. Political, economic, and environmental times. Medyo uncertain po talaga ang times natin ngayon. So what we've researched from our consumers is that they're eager naman na even if they see all the news every day, they're eager to move the conversation from tough times to a thoughtful outlook that is both realistic and optimistic for a more reassuring future. So that's why this trend is interesting. Moving on to the next slide. Actually, meron po kaming na-research din dun sa mga qualitatives namin, kaya may mga consumer verbatims tayo today, is that meron pa rin pong barrier dito sa trend na optimistic future. For example po, the outdated mindsets ng older generation shared by Shara, a 23-year-old student, is that during the time of her parents, hindi mas sila masyadong digital yung interaction. So mas physical, face-to-face interaction pa sila. So kaya may instances na hindi sila makarelate sa mga issues pinagdadaanan namin, 'di ba? So medyo nahihirapan silang optimism kasi nagko-collide or nagko-conflict yung with their parents. But what's a driver for this trend is there's also changing times and changing views. So according to another student, a Gen Z student whose name is Jove, siya naman, she's finding it optimistic because right now, her issues of mental health is also being discussed. Mas open na daw to how people feel. And now people are more open and accepting na mag-break or mag-pause for mental health. And that she finds optimistic because we're all helping each other do this. Okay, so that's for learning the drivers and the barriers. Moving on to the next slide, what we have here is actually some quick quantitative data para po dun sa mahilig sa data po, di ba? So what we found that among APAC Gen Z, itong 13 to 23-year-olds natin, 74% of them feel that their generation is better off than their parents. And in fact, mas higher number pa yan sa Filipino Gen Z in our survey. 78% po feel more optimistic pa. So that's actually a good sign for our next generation. Okay, let's go quickly to the next slide and just give you po mga what-ifs, thought starters, na mga makatulong sa pag-reimagine ng mga negosyo natin. So based on this trend of the first one, which is the optimistic futures, what we're putting down here is some what-ifs po. How can businesses and brands provide an optimistic yet realistic point of view in today's uncertain times? That's the first trend. And the second trend, the second thought starter rather, is about in what ways can businesses and brands provide reassurance or comfort to customers and audiences, pero in a way na nakaka-empathize tayo sa ano yung feelings nila. Okay, that's the first trend. Let's go through 4 more. Going to the next slide, you should be seeing trend number 2, which is singles lexicon, time spending. So this one we felt was something quite interesting for our mga negosyante kasi it's spinning down this new segment. Kasi po, with more empathy and inclusivity in the world comes new language and new ways of spending to reflect the many ways to live without a partner. So in the next slide, we've discovered na this is so interesting po kasi culture is experiencing a push na i-reframe natin yung single people as they really are, how they want to be seen, confident, fulfilled, and empowered. So very quickly into the next slide, we've researched some barriers kasi meron pa rin po mga consumers natin, in the case of Rosana, a restaurant owner, na unwilling pa siya mag-accept, diba? That singlehood is something that is empowering. In fact, he told us that pag may makikita pa daw siyang mag-isa nanonood ng sine, parang feeling niya, mas kawawa naman masyadong loner or masyadong boring yun. But another driver naman that makes this trend more significant is that for other people naman po, singlehood is actually independence and more spending power. Nakakatuwa nga po si Lorenzo, our consumer who's a 27-year-old millennial. Sabi niya, ayoko magpakasal. Para sa akin lang yung pera ko. But it's not for any selfish motive. It's actually so that I can control my own progression and my own development. And then even Alyssa, an even younger consumer, told us she noticed that it's super relevant that people are looking after their own independence and their own passions and interests. So that's why that's an important driver that proves that this trend is significant. Moving to the next slide, I think we have a video that will play that shows you a business example of how an airline, though we cannot actually fly today, it just gives you an idea of a business idea for singles. Hopefully, if the video plays.
Oh.
Come on.
It's moments like these
that I will cherish for a lifetime.
Nothing beats that feeling I get
when I travel
solo. I can rejoice in the exact moment when I know I am making memories that will last a lifetime.
I can spend my time indulging in all my favorite desserts. Who said anything about sharing?
I have all the time in the world to enjoy what I'm looking at.
I can admire beauty and just be in the moment
without any distractions.
Your solo adventure awaits this Singles Day.
Okay, so that's an example po of a business idea that is like a solo adventure promo or a opportunity for singles. And what we found interesting in other examples of this is, of course, all our e-commerce partners have all their Singles Day. We have different new language. Like if you remember po, nung nag-divorce si Gwyneth Paltrow at si Chris Martin, ang tawag nila ay conscious uncoupling. Hindi siya divorce, di ba? And then when Emma Watson said, celebrating her singlehood, she talked about new language called self-partnering. So that's an example of a proof of this trend. So moving to the thought starter for this trend, what we found that can be interesting to businesses and brands is that how can we address this need na growing po kasi itong single segment na to. They call themselves different things, sologamists, diba? Self-partnered, uncoupled, and they need to be affirmed and not judged for their single status. Meron po tayong mga negosyo ideas, stories, other language that actually celebrate singledom and singlehood and drive conversations that include them and support their different but chosen lifestyle. So that's another trend for you. I'll move quickly to another interesting trend din po, and this is called Untabooing of the East. And what we find actually na interesting dito is, ito po yung mga taboos, yung mga bawal, di ba? Na previously medyo hindi pinag-uusapan dito sa Asia. But what we found in this trend is that slowly but surely, some long-established taboos surrounding gender, mental health, and sexual health are falling away in Asia. So for example po, in the next slide, what we find is that why this is very interesting is Asian survey data and anecdotal evidence actually show that there's a shift in openness about traditional health discussion taboos and even discussions about gender and how we're being limited by that before. For example po, in our survey of 2,500 consumers in 5 countries, mental health is a big concern and it's being discussed. And also in our Generation Z Asia report of the youngest consumers, gender is not anymore defining a person as much as it used to. So very much more supported by data itong trend na to. Okay, moving to the next slide. What drives this trend? Actually, wala po kaming nahanap na barrier. It's really more of a driver that supports the fact na because our youngest people are all socially connected. In fact, po, the median age for the Philippines is just 26 years old. All of these online discussions has helped shape awareness and acceptance and discussions about gender, mental health, and sexual health. For example po, Rafa, a young millennial who we spoke to said, dati kasi hindi exposed yung mga tao sa iba't ibang gender. Ngayon, hindi lang sila somebody that you will encounter at the salon. Now, you have all kinds of genders in politics, engineering, all fields. Nagbe-build na yung acceptance sa lahat sa kanila. #woke, di po ba? Then nakaka-raise ng awareness ang LGBT in more roles in society that they play. And then Cass actually also echoed out and says that in terms of mental health, dati kasi, di ba, the discussion was, depressed ka, nag-iinarte ka lang ata. But actually now, the more discussions, the more practices actually, and the more ways you can help each other, nagdi-discuss na daw yun in your circles. So that's consumer verbatim for this trend. Moving on to the next slide, well, what we think you might be interested to check later, diba, when you go into the video of this trend, is actually a movement in Japan called Kutu. Why is this an interesting example of the untabooing of the East trend? It actually came from an idea of an actress and a freelance writer in Japan. This is her name, Yumi Ishikawa. She actually had a job as a receptionist in a funeral parlor, but she noticed that everyone in the office, all the gentlemen were wearing comfortable business shoes, but all the ladies had to be required to wear heels. And what she found is that she felt it was demeaning to the gender of women because it resulted in real harm. Nagkakasugat-sugat po sila ng paa. So she actually created an online petition for the government to make it illegal for employers to force workers, female workers, to wear high heels. It netted 31,000 signatures. She was even featured in the BBC. And in fact, kaya po ito importanteng interesting point for negosyante. She created her own business, which she called Kutu Follower. She launched a line of flat shoes that look very businessy. And I think that's the picture you see there, diba? So mukha pa rin siyang corporate, pero flat for the women. Okay, so napakwento ako po dun sa trend na yun kasi ang interesting niyang business. But moving to the next slide, we'd like to show the thought starters for this trend, which is for our brands and businesses, meron ba tayong naiisip na mga bawal, mga taboos na in gender, sexual health, mental health, or other kinds of taboos na a business or a brand can actually help break or normalize? And another thought starter would be, how can our businesses and brands have a positive and seamless participation in the conversations surrounding these taboos? Okay, so that's another trend for us. Let's move on to, I think you should be seeing trend number 4. So trend number 4 po is all about future-proofing the planet, but how we're going to, in a way, talk to you about it po is in the industry of or language of food. So what we found for this trend is that as pressure to reduce food waste continues to mount, climate consciousness are opening up to new recipes that are not only healthy for themselves, but healthy for the planet also. So that's the description of trend future-proof recipes. If we move to the next slide, why this is very, very interesting is because apparently consumers are starting to be more curious. Ano daw po ba itong climate diet? So it's actually climate diet is consuming less meat and dairy and seeking environmentally friendly alternatives. So it's about food brands needing to start producing healthy and sustainable foods that not only make it healthy for us, our bodies, but also nourish the planet as well. So as IKEA's research lab called Space 10, they're actually the example for this trend. It's about inspiring people to explore delicious flavors and sustainable healthy ingredients. Pero nakakatulong ka rin sa food diversity. Dito daw po lalabas na mag-experiment na tayo soon about burgers made of bugs and mealworms, chichirya like potato chips coming from algae, or popsicles na galing din sa seaweed or algae, diba? So they're made from the unusual, mas marami pong supply sa planet, so they're planet-saving ingredients. So very, very interesting example. Moving on to the next slide, it's a bit more of, ito po ba may barrier at may driver yung trend na to? So nung ni-research natin siya dito among Filipino consumers, what we found is that awareness is limited to what we know medyo basically po, diba? So according to our consumer's name is Carl Ann, ang alam lang niya, yung nakikita niya sa FB na yung NutriAsia as a brand, meron silang bring your own bottle booth, diba? So she actually has shampoo bottles na pwedeng refill. Hanggang dun pa lang yung alam niyang way to help with climate change, diba? So may limited awareness pa siya. But what drives this trend is the opportunity na among higher income consumers who are very experimental and have gourmet palates, nag-iisip-isip na sila. Like for example, for Kyle, he knows this brand called Corn, which is a meat alternative. And then he knows also that meats actually take more resources out of the planet. They take more water, more energy to consume. So naghahanap-hanap lang siya ng ways to experiment with his food that uses planet-friendly ingredients. Okay, so we learned from our consumers on this trend. I mentioned this earlier in the next, this slide, which is IKEA Labs Space 10. So they're exploring fish tacos made of freshwater fish that they grow in their own backyard using aquaponic system. And they also look at Impossible Foods, Impossible Burger, which is a plant-based burger. Plant-based burger that actually starting to be experimented on and sold in Burger King and White Castle, who are food restaurants establishments in the US. So that's an example of this trend. And in the next slide, I think if you're on the thought starter slide now for the future-proof recipes trend, it's all about businesses and brands thinking of ways to be more concerned about planet species diversity. How can businesses and brands collaborate to get more consumers and foodies to not just eat healthily for themselves, but to benefit the planet as well? And how can businesses and brands collaborate with and support other brands in the health and fitness sphere to use widely available ingredients for their future food innovations and flavors? Okay, moving on, I think we have the last trend for you guys today. So we're now on trend number 5, and it's called new digital communities. So dati po, di ba, with social media, paramihan tayo ng friends list, paramihan tayo ng likes. What's interesting about this trend is now social media is having an intimate, private moment where we avoid the endless friends list daw po in favor of more intimate connections with a selected few. So if you move to the next slide, why this 5th trend is interesting is because consumers are shifting into smaller, tight-knit, like-minded groups. Brands will have new opportunities to make genuine connections in online spaces. Okay, so let's move to what are the drivers of this trend. So we actually found no barriers for this trend. So a driver for the new digital communities trend is, I think it was discussed earlier, medyo meron na tayo hankering for more privacy, coupled with now authenticity, but with fewer people. So as mentioned earlier, counting of likes is not necessary. Some young consumers actually value more close connections with their chosen set of friends. As our student consumer told us, nangyayari po ito ngayon, most of my friends have Finsta, or what you call the fake Insta, tapos yung closest friends lang yung kasama niya doon. Meron na rin feature yung IG stories na close friends, mas gusto nila yung authentic engagement with people, yung mga friends lang talaga nila. And then another Gen Z student told us, sa IG nga, alam din niya may close friends din. Di ba minsan doon yung may pinupuntahan ka, ayaw mong malaman ng family mo, ng mga magulang mo, or older relatives mo, na pumunta ka doon. Gusto mo yung close friends mo lang, gusto ipakita. So this just shows you with this driver slide trend of new digital communities. It's about intimacy, but also authenticity. That's why the example in the next slide just shows Instagram's other feature, which is co-watching with friends. We believe they just launched it March 24. And it's about enabling your selected close group of friends to view Instagram posts together with you. And it's about multiple friends that can connect via video chat and browse content as a group. So it's all about kayo-kayo, sabay-sabay, kahit konti kayo, nagkakaintindihan kayo, pareho kayo ng interests and passions. Okay, so the thought starters for this trend is actually all about, in this age of distancing, diba? Real life distancing tayo na yun. Maybe there are mga negosyo ideas. So how can our businesses, brands, or platforms aid in preserving a tightly knit close group of friends and family? Or another wild card, what if lang po, can multiple businesses, brands, or platforms collaborate if they happen to be cross-consumed or mentioned in conversations by the same small circle of friends? So what can we do to create new stories or experiences tackling this? So for example, a what-if example for this second thought starter lang po is, if we find that, let's say, new moms with new babies, actually, that's their one interest. Pero within their conversations, we found that their other similar interest is their fitness buffs. Kasi they need to be able to strengthen their bodies because they're carrying babies, diba, ngayon. Medyo kailangan nila na maging strong yung arms, diba? So those kinds of two intimate topics within the same group can net an actual negosyo idea for that particular group of moms, for example. So example lang po yun. Okay, so actually that's the 5th trend and the 5th thought starter. We actually went through trends, optimistic future, singles lexicon, spending, untabooing ease, future-proof recipes, and new digital community. So you should be seeing on your screen actually the video inspiration per trend na pwede nyo pong puntahan later. And I think that's all we have for today, right, Golda? there. So actually, I think you will be seeing our thank you slide. And if you have further questions po, those are our email addresses on the screen that you see today. So I'm Pam, and with me is our CEO Golda. And if you're interested, kasi 100 po talaga yung trends na yan, meron pong link dyan na nakalagay na Future 100 Trends. You can download it for free on Wunderman Thompson Intelligence, which is our global trend bank. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you're staying safe and peaceful at home.